2, 4, 6, 9. Sorry? Yeah, I am, yeah. Good afternoon, councillors, officers and members of the public. Welcome along. I declare this meeting open. Under announcements, sad news this week. The former Deputy Premier, Mel Bryce, passed away. Mel was born in Bunbury. He was a teacher here for a number of years and moved on to become a minister and then Deputy Premier for Western Australia. So that's sad. He was only 74 apparently. On a more pleasing note, depends which way you look at it, it's Councillor McGuinness's last meeting tonight, and also Jamie's last meeting tonight. So both Joel and Jamie, we wish you both the very best, and don't leave before I give you your name plaque tonight, Joel. Please. So we have apologies from Councillor Steele and Brown. Councillor McGuell has leave of absence and Councillor Steck has requested leave of absence for tonight's meeting. Someone prepared to move that Councillor Steck be granted leave of absence, please. Thank you, Councillor Cook. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Cleary. All in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest, councillors? Thank you. Are there any, 711, confirmation of the last ordinary council meeting. Councillor Cook, seconder. Councillor McGuinness, all in favour. That's carried unanimously. And then we have minutes of the special council meeting. Someone prepared to move that. Thank you, Councillor Cook. Is there a seconder? Councillor McCleary, all in favour. That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Minutes of advisory committee meetings. We have the Bunbury Roadwise Committee. Can someone move that we accept and note that? Thank you, Councillor McCleary. Second. Councillor Cook, all in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Are there any petitions? We have a request for a presentation tonight by Mr Underwood from Planning Solutions for item 10.4.1. Those who agree, please indicate. That's approved, thank you. 841, Council Delegates Report. Someone prepared to move the report by Councillor Cook. Thank you, Councillor McGuinness. Councillor McCleary seconds. All in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thanks very much, Councillor Cook, for your attendance at those meetings. Councillors, tonight coming out is 10.1.1 and 10.4.1. Are there any other items that councillors wish to discuss? If that's the case, can I have someone move the balance, please? Councillor Cook, Councillor McGuinness, all in favour? It's carried unanimously, thank you. So 10.1.1, councillors, I'm looking for a mover for the executive recommendation. Councillor McCleary, is there a seconder? Councillor McGuinness, likely to be any debate? I'll put it all in favour. It's carried unanimously, thank you. 10.4.1, Mr Underwood, welcome to you. You know the rules of engagement here, Ross, so welcome.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor and councillors. We are here tonight on item 10.4.1, which of course is the showroom development at 27 Spencer Street in Bunbury. We are asking council today to accept the recommendation that's been presented by the officers in front of you. except for a simple modification to delete condition 25. Condition 25, as you might recall, requires a monetary contribution to be paid towards the upgrading of the footpath on Spencer Street adjacent to our development site. You have heard me talk about various principles and things before at previous council meetings. What I want to do today is focus on three principles in particular which we consider that this condition does not satisfy. They are principles of equity, certainty and consistency, and they're laid out in this document here, which is State Planning Policy 3.6, Development Contributions for Infrastructure. It was published in 2009, that particular policy, and I will go through those three principles in a little bit more detail. In doing so, what I want to do is finish off by also talking about how council might, in the future, move towards accepting contributions to footpaths. The first of the principles in this particular policy relates to equity. It states development contributions should be levied from all developments within a development contribution area relative to their contribution to the need. We say that this particular contribution fails that principle, and this is because there's been no analysis that has been undertaken to establish particularly how this development and any other development in the Spencer Street area contributes to the need to upgrade the footpaths in the area. The second principle is certainty. It states all development contributions should be clearly identified and methods for accounting for escalation agreed upon at the commencement of development. Again, it's clear from where we've got to with this particular condition that there is no certainty in how these costs are arrived at. From what we can tell, there is hidden in the back of the city's schedule of fees a per linear metre square rate for footpath contributions, but it's certainly not something which is established into any kind of planning framework or policy or plan to state clearly to developers how these costs are arrived at in considering orderly and proper planning. The final principle I want to talk about is consistency. It states development contributions should be applied uniformly across a development contribution area, and the methodology for applying contributions should be consistent. Again, there is no plan or policy in place. We are aware that there have been developments, including the Covs, slightly across the road from this site, and Wallace Motors at 61 Spencer Street, which have been redeveloped recently without having the footpaths upgraded. If you have a look at the Cobb site, it's the old style footpaths of the individual concrete slabs lined up 3 wide along the footpath. And that was, I should say, a brand new development on what was previously an old house on a large lot. So we are in the tribunal with this particular condition. If Council was to agree to delete condition 25, we would be satisfied that the various, where we've got to with the officers and on this particular condition, we would have been entirely satisfied and can withdraw from those proceedings. Now, I did promise a way for Council to consider this going into the future. The officers have advised that they were working on a policy or are working on a policy to explain how footpath contributions can be levied into the future. This would be a great start. We haven't seen anything come before Council as of yet. There is nothing in place. We understand that well, ultimately the best case scenario would be a development contribution plan adopted by Council which sets out clearly the methodology establishing all of those principles adopted into the scheme via a scheme amendment. This would give Council absolute authority to levy these particular charges. So in saying that, I thank you for your attention. We would love to see Council consider this matter by removing condition 25 from the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm prepared to accept a move and a seconder for the executive recommendation, and then if somebody wants to move an amendment, they can do so. So is there a mover for the executive recommendation in toto? Thank you, Councillor McCleary. Is there a seconder? Councillor Kelly. Councillor McCleary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, it's wonderful in this age and right now today to have such a beaut building coming on in our area, in our city. And it's really important. What I could say is the enormous amount of money that's been spent on that building is fantastic. However, I don't want to see people getting bogged down with just the little stuff, the little fine print. Really, with the amount of what the building costs, half share, 50%, the city has come forward and said, we'll pay half of the footpath, you pay the other. We're looking at $6,240. Yes, there is a principle involved here, I agree. However, if we just look at the dollars, is not a lot of money. To go to SAT over $6,240 is, as a business, I personally myself, I would not. I would find that I would be looking at the goodwill of the city, having come up with it halfway. Also consider already what was in play is that the other businesses around, for instance Aldi, as explained in our briefing, have already came up with the money and didn't at that time take us to SAT over that. They accepted that was what our building regulations were and they took that on the chin, so to speak. So I just feel that if we were to let this go, it's a thin end of the wedge, okay? So we need to stay with what we have here, certainly down the track, to look at maybe changing and doing some tweaking. But tonight, right now, if you were to take out that, we would have a flood of businesses, of developers coming in, and the request will get bigger and bigger and would have that green mail threat all the time that if you don't do what we want, we'll take you to SAT. So once again, I am absolutely delighted that this is going to be a beautiful building there. It also is going to bring people into the town, but there is a responsibility of developers to take what costs is going to cost on the chin without trying to find some way, because I don't know what you do with $6,240 overall anyway. But let me just take you back where it says, and I'll take you to page 29, subject site is located in the proposed Spencer Street activity corridor. I think this is really important, as set out in the city's local planning strategy, and is proposed to change from a mixed business zone to a mixed use. I think this has a lot to do with why we need a wider footpath, okay? Commercial zone under draft, local planning scheme 8, which is now no longer a draft, it is in place. As such, the subject site is located within an area under transition with Spencer Street of the city. As Spencer Street itself undergoes further in regards to increasing commercialism and densification of the area, it is considered necessary that the adequate pedestrian network be provided at the subject site. I'm not going to read on anymore, just knowing that we are going halves to widen this footpath, so please take it on board when you make your decision on what you're going to vote for tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Kelly.
No, thanks.
Speaker against. Councillor Morris, a question.
Maybe the CEO could direct it to Mr. To Thor Farnsworth. I noticed when Mr. Underwood was mentioning that consistency was not met, could the planning people let us know, did Audi's pay in relation to their footpath alongside their new supermarket, as well as Bunbury Toyota and Geograph Ford and Hyundai and Volkswagen? So if I know exactly, was there consistency in relation to Spencer Street in relation to the development of those footpaths?
CEO.
I'm happy to refer that to Mr. Tall.
In this essence, the schedule of charges has circumstances is the same. So in the Aldi situation, the length along Spencer Street was actually up to standard. It was the correct width and it was a high condition. So we weren't going to ask for something that was already there and already been provided. But Aldi did have a frontage along the secondary street. And it's there that they negotiated, along with a range of other things, of road improvements, etc., a contribution towards a footpath. In the other cases, again, each circumstance was slightly different. Some people had a need to do a bit more or less than in this instance, simply because there was a combination of things that they were doing. But each and every case, the per linear metre of footpath that we need to replace, if there was to be replaced, was exactly the same.
Well, I think Councillor Morris asked about those other places specifically. Can you recall whether those other developments did contribute?
Yes, they did contribute towards footpaths, but some contributed for more than that. They might have contributed for the full resurfacing of the top, or they might have actually also contributed to landscaping in the road reserve area as well. So each one is slightly different because the circumstances of the development were of different scale, different situation along Spencer Street.
Thank you.
But each and every one contributed to footpaths, and the amount per metre they contributed was the same.
Thanks. Is there a speaker against this? I'll put it on in favour. That's carried unanimously. Thank you. We have requests for leave of absence in there. Jamie, you're in, especially mine. We'll deal with Councillor Cook's leave first. I'm prepared to move that. Councillor Hayward, seconder. Councillor McGuinness, all in favour. It's carried unanimously. 11.2, my request, move up. Councillor Cook, Councillor Hayward, all in favour. That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, before I close the meeting, Councillor McGuinness, tradition in our city, probably in other places as well, to hand you your nameplate to remind you of your time and your contribution to our city. But thanks again for not only your council contribution, Rob, but also your community contribution, which has been outstanding. And on behalf of the council, we wish you every success in July. Thank you. Thank you, councillors, thank you, officers, and thank you, members of the public. I declare this meeting closed at 5:47 p.m.